Okay, I once again got that SS2 corrupted data message, but I want to take a moment here and kind of talk about it because I'm beginning to suspect that it has absolutely nothing to do with the data. Well, not the game save data. It's got something to do with either how it's initializing or something, and I'm gonna take you through the process and tell you why. Okay, so we're gonna switch back over to the game when it decides to. Okay, so this is a game save where this is where I saved in Sanctuary. So what I want to do is I'm going to go through some game saves, and I'm going to show you these here. So the game save that I'm in now is right here. This is the game save. So one past that is Cambridge Polymer Institutes, the institute. Here is the next game save, same institute. This is again Polymer Institute, and then this is Polymer Institute again. Now, these are not necessarily 4 consecutive game saves. I would say this is where I saved, this is where I exited the game. So this was my save, actually where I went in and I did a normal save, and then this is where I exited the game. This was probably a normal save, and that's probably a normal save. Okay, so when I loaded into the game, I loaded into the game with this game save right here. And it was fine. It popped up, give me the normal IDEC message. Everything is good. We're good. And what I had done is I had gone over to here, right over to here, and I had disabled transfer settlements. I just disabled the DLL because I thought, okay, I'm going to actually do a test here and I'm going to see if this is what's interfering with because I can't really move the resource panel. The only panel when I set the hotkey that allows me to flip between the different panels, SS2 panels, the only one I can get to come up is the one that when you're over an NPC will say what their assignment is. So if I want to go to the next panel, there's a pause there, but nothing actually displays. So I thought, okay, maybe something is interfering with HUD framework. And I'd noticed this before because I'd noticed and somebody else actually figured this out. I found it on I actually found it on the internet, whereby it was transfer settlements was somehow interfering. I'm not sure how, I'm not sure why, but the mod was gas masks of the wasteland. I think it was like 2287 or something. It's probably one of the more popular gas mask mods. It's almost like it was kind of it kind of was very heavily stalker themed, and you could see the gas mask image, but it wouldn't update. So you didn't see any like as you're wearing a gas mask and you use it, the gas mask becomes worn, so it's less effective until it gets to 0, and then you need to change your gas mask. So the more you use it, it would go from 100% effective to 0% effective, and you would see that change over time. But with transfer settlements DLL enabled, it would show the gas mask would show on the screen, but you wouldn't see anything being updated. And simply by disabling that DLL, everything worked fine. And I thought I'd read somewhere where I'm pretty sure it was transfer settlements. One of them was kind of messing with the input chain. I can't say that's it for sure, but it was something like that. Okay, so anyways, so back to what I was getting at. So I disabled that. So that's why you've seen so many game saves over here, because I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to disable. I'm going to hop out. I'm going to exit out, disable transfer settlements, and then go back in. And that's why you see these things here. Well, when I went back into load the very same game I loaded, it popped up and said SS2 data corrupted. And I'm thinking, well, no, let me rephrase that. So the first thing that popped up was transfer settlements saying, okay, It's disabled because I can't access the objects. I can't do these kind of object, I can't access the objects. Now, that may be part of the reason that that is popping up, but I can't guarantee it because it's not 100% of the time. I'm not getting SS2 data corruption every single time. Okay, so it popped up and said, okay, obviously the transfer settlement scripts are going to be disabled. Now, that's the first time I'd ever seen that message. I've disabled it before and re-enabled it mid-game. I've never seen that message pop up. So this popped up and said, okay, transfer settlements has got a problem. I'm gonna, it's gonna disable importing and exporting objects. Okay, that's fine. That makes sense. That wouldn't necessarily mean it's interfering with some settlements too, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't necessarily mean there's a conflict. It just simply means, okay, the script is not working right. It detected that, which again, it never detected that before, because before I started using some settlements too, I never saw that. I'd gone in, because what it did, it interfered with Looks menu. The input from the mouse wouldn't work in Looks menu with transfer settlements, the DLL active. So I went and deactivated it. I could go into Looks menu and then I could reactivate it. So I've never seen that before. Then it popped up and said SS2 data corruption. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to exit out, re-enable the DLL. Now, we're not talking plugins, so I didn't go in and enable and disable plugins. My load order has stayed the same. I did not add, because the way that my system works here, the way this application works, is when I add a mod, it is not necessarily installed. It is over here in the load order, but it is not installed. So this one is ready to be installed. And we could go over and look at active not installed, and it would show us that. So I'm getting ready for when this particular playthrough is done. I'm getting ready to maybe make a few little tweaks to my load order. So as far as this load order goes, no mods have been added and no mods have been taken out. So we can rule that out completely. But the interesting part of this whole thing is once I went in to reload the very same game data I saved, now remember, I loaded it prior. Everything was fine. I got an IDEC message and that was it. So then I go in and think, you know what? I'm going to disable the transfer settlement DLL. I went in, loaded the exit game save. My application renames them all, so it and that way it gives me a nice because quick saves are renamed as well. I can turn that off, but I can disable that feature by simply saying I don't want to rename. Just put equals false. I don't want to rename quick saves. And but what it does, quick saves, I have limited quick saves, so by renaming them, I can have as many quick saves as I want. But anyways, so when I went in to reload that exit game save, it now says SS2 data is corrupt. I'm like, okay, fine. Maybe somehow flipping that DLL, because that's going to be the initial assumption, is that flipping this DLL somehow did something, which it shouldn't, but let's just assume it did. Okay, fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely exit out of the game, and I'm going to go back in to the game, and I'm going to load a save prior to that. Now remember, I'd already loaded the game save once, didn't get the message. So, the SS2 corruption message. So now I loaded the game prior to that change, which, I loaded the game save prior to that change, and all of a sudden, I got the SS2 corruption again. Well, that's weird. Okay, so now let me back up again. So I backed up again. I had to keep backing up, and I did it like 3 or 4 times. So I started checking every one of these game saves. And I got back here to Sanctuary, and it's fine. There is no corruption. So I thought, okay, that's weird. So again, another assumption is going to be that the game saves from this point forward is corrupt. However, as I mentioned earlier, I loaded one of these game saves and did not get that message. But now it's giving me messages for the very same game save. So what I'm beginning to think is that It depends. This is either a race condition, and and again, let me kind of complete what I'm thinking. So it's either a race condition or it's part of the problem where something is not being initialized and it's random. It's completely random. Okay, so if you look at the message, let's take the message at face value, SS2 data corruption. So obviously, the scripting is checking for something. Now the question is, I don't know what it's checking for. I don't know what data structure, what values, what quest. I'm not sure. There was no canary warning message anywhere, and I do have that in my load order. So there's nothing canary-wise. I could probably go in over here and I could probably take a look at the game saves and literally, look at the sizes. Let's see, where are our game saves here? Not that. Here we go. I could probably go down here and take a look at the size of the files and see if there's any major difference. Let's see, plugin count. Let's see. Here we go. Well, no, that's game version size. Here we go. So I could literally see if there's a major difference in the size. And you can see there isn't that big of a difference. Although, granted, some difference could be a problem. So we don't see a major size difference. Canary didn't kick up, and let's assume at this point Canary works. Again, I'm looking at this very objectively. So let's assume Canary works. Well, it didn't throw up a message, so we're not missing blocks of data. So I'm not sure what Canary is looking for. Also, so SS2 says it's corrupted. I'm not sure what that check is. So I don't know if a script or a fragment didn't run, if something didn't run, if it's looking for a specific value, or if somehow in the process of trying to load the assets, it's saying that there is a missing asset. I'm not sure where or what that logic is, and that's something that I really to help kind of put this on the table, at least for me, so I can figure out as I'm playing where this is coming from, or at least try to analytically isolate what part of the code I think it is just through gameplay alone. I would need to know what that's checking, because once again, a game save that didn't give me that error message, the same game save. Now, we're not talking about resaving it. I went back to load the very game save that came up good, that actually said, okay, we're okay. That made a corruption error, and every one prior to that, until I got to Sanctuary, I had to get out of that area. So this could be something where hard drive buffering or something, there's something in the change forms where the game is saying, I don't need to reload the data because we're in the same area. Now that would be the first thing I would think, that this is buffered. This is the game itself which buffers the data. However, I completely exited the game. I didn't just simply say, oh, it's corrupted, let me go load another one. Oh, here we go. I completely exited the game, started the game back up, and then selected a different game save. So that rules out, that completely rules out the game engine buffering data itself. So, in other words, it didn't unload all the data because we're in the same area. That tells me hard drive. That tells me the buffer on the hard drive still has that data cached. So now so then I went back to Sanctuary, which was a completely different area. It loads just fine. So what we're going to try to do is, and I know this video is probably going to be long, so now we've loaded in the same area. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save this. We're going to save where we're at. We're going to create a new save.
Workshop framework entries detected.
Now, let's go back in and let's see if we can load. We're just going to do a load here. I want to go back in, and I don't want to load that one. I want to load one of these, which is a different area. And let's get the very first one, because every one of these came up. Now this is just a test. I'm doing this, just kind of raw, raw. As I say, it's just raw dog doing it, and I'm kind of curious because this is how I normally test things to see if I can isolate at what point things go south. Because these loaded just fine. There was no corruption error whatsoever. And let's see what we're looking at. Okay, give it a second because it does take a moment. See, IDEC, see, look, now these are not giving me an error message, whereas SS2 corruption data did pop up. All right, now let's see if we can load another one. Let's go to the last one and let's see what this one says. This one gave me, like, all of those, every single one in, once I got that message, every single one in front of Cambridge gave me that message. See, we're back to IDEC, which is fine. So now that message does not appear on every single one of those game saves. And every single time I checked out these game saves here, that one gave me this, that one gave me, because remember, I loaded them initially just fine. I loaded this initially just fine. But then when I went back in and went to reload it, it gave me a corrupted error. Then from that point, I thought, okay, let me exit out. Let me try this. Said that one was corrupted. Hang on, let me try. Everyone here in Cambridge was corrupted, except for when I went to Sanctuary. That loaded, and every time I tested that, I exited the game, and then I restarted the game, and I loaded a completely different game save. Now the game saves, see, now SS2 is reporting these game saves as fine. So let's go in and let's save this. Let's go in and do a save. Now normally whenever
Workshop framework entries
I
detected.
do a save and an instant reload, like a load, it'll always somehow keep me from doing a save. Somehow it thinks it's not unflagging something. It thinks the game is still saving, and I'm not sure why. Okay, let's see. See, we are perfectly fine. There is no SS2 corrupted data. Normally this will be de-highlighted. Okay, so I'm the only thing that I can isolate it down to is the hard drive's cache. Not that the cache is bad, which it's possible the hard drive cache could be causing the problem, but if it is, we would be seeing consistent problems. It would be something that's very, very consistent. Let me get rid of these God rays. I'll be glad when the common papyrus library gets that fixed where I can use it again, and that way I can use the thing that lets me... There's another mod which lets me tone down the God rays, the intensity of it. Okay, so now you can see everything appears to be fine. So whatever SS2 is checking is detecting that it's missing data. But as you can see, which I wish I could have shown you prior to, where all of these Cambridge saves popped up with missing data, and then I had to go far back to Sanctuary. But now I can load these. Let's just kind of keep trying them out and see. Let's just go back to this one, whatever the heck this one is. Let's load this one and see if it gives me, because now they're fine. So by exiting the game and going back in, the only thing that would do would allow, because the hard drive would still have the data cached. See, we don't have that problem now. So the hard drive, so whatever the issue was. Wait, did I just get that twice? Let me load that again. That was weird. Where's it at? There it is. Let me load that again. I wasn't paying that much attention. I have to go back and look at the video. So now, like I said, just to kind of keep reinforcing that, every game save that said it's corrupted. Okay, fine. We know that. So I thought it gave me the same. Yeah, see, it's giving me the same. That's interesting. So, okay, so for the same message to hit twice, there is something in the scripting. There is something in the papyrus and something in the scripting, or something in the way the scripts are written, or somehow in the way things are being handled, which is duplicating something. Because that, I've never seen it pop up twice. It only ever pops up once. But that is from SS2. So SS2 threw that up twice, and I think it's only that game save. So let's try this real quick. Let's see if this pops up twice. So something was going on with SS2 scripting where it somehow did the check twice. Let's see, there's one. That's usually normal. Yeah, see, we're fine. Okay, so either we have a buffering problem or somehow there is a very intermittent bug in SS2 where, or in the VM, it could be in the scripting engine where somehow the scripting engine is missing, it's not loading something or something's getting bypassed. So let's do this. So, and this video actually turned out to be a little bit longer than I had intended. So let me go into this and let's go over and take a look.
Workshop framework entries detected.
We are getting the workshop frameworks. I know some of these are probably can be ignored. I know they can probably be ignored, but the way that I'm looking at this, or what it's kind of making me very curious, is problems. Okay, so in some instances, yes, the game, people are using Papyrus as a data filter. So they're using Papyrus as a data filter. So they don't really check for a null ref or, a missing reference. They just let Papyrus filter it out. I don't think that's really a good programming practice, but it does keep the scripts tighter. I can kind of see that to a degree. But let's see. Let's look forward. So we have a lot of SKK is fine. I talked to I mentioned to him because I thought there's a lot of these, and he said, well, it might be a cloned actor or something. Let's see, because there's a lot, and that comes from that that comes from that Red Rocket mod. Okay, let's see. Yeah, a lot of these are Prasm, something SM. Not really sure. See, HUD framework has an invalid widget. Not really sure what's happening here. Now remember, this is the same load order. I've not added or removed anything. This is just whatever scripts exist are doing their thing. Alright, let's get past all SKK stuff. Easy to see because it's just a giant block of stuff. Alright, it's got a remove on death alias because null pointer on a form is not the right type. Okay. Not sure if SKK is correct. Maybe that's from a cloned robot. But here's scrap machines. I got a Prasm scrap machine. I'm not sure if that is the I'm not sure what's causing that. See, look, you got a type mismatch for argument 2. I'm not sure which. I don't really have full debugging enabled, so I'm not sure what all this might be. I might have to enable full debugging during this playthrough. It makes massive. I might change that and see. It's going to make a massive file. But anyways, I wanted to document this and let you see that, because what I was thinking was to kind of get that thought out, so I can move on to another one here. Is sometimes what you see is the symptom of something else. So where you may have a warning in here which is innocuous, there may be another warning which looks the same, but is the result of an actual problem that is buried somewhere deeper in the scripting or how the whole system works together, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I wouldn't say all of these are innocuous. Some of them might be, but I do think there is something going on somewhere. But anyways, wanted to document that so you could see it. I'm going to upload this, and I'll go ahead and link it in the SS2 test forum before I start working on the next test. So yes, people, I myself, now I can't speak for everybody, but I myself have gotten that message quite a few times. I got it twice, and then I got it a third time, and then every game save in front of Cambridge Polymer Labs gave me an error. Then I went back to Sanctuary, exited the game, loaded the Sanctuary save. That one was fine. Exited the game. I went back into Polymer Labs area, loaded those. All of those are no longer reporting an error. So it's something that's happening either during the initialization or when the scripts start running. There's something happening there. So it is possible that a person who is getting that error out of the clear blue, it's nothing they've done. It could simply be a bug in the SS2 scripting somewhere. It is possible. It is possible that maybe something is interfering. That's another possibility. And I know a lot of times you'll say, well, it doesn't happen to us, therefore it's a conflict, but also a modded game has heavier script load. There's heavier script load, and there could be other things happening in the virtual machine engine where certain conditions aren't coded correctly, or there's certain conditions where it's skipping something it shouldn't. It's encountering data. They think they've corrected it. There's a bug in the code, and then therefore it's skipping something, and then that hiccup throws everything off in that VM engine from that point forward. Because I remember the Bethesda employee, and I can almost say that based on the animosity of a particular Bethesda employee to the community, to their own fans, it almost sounded like the same person who literally would say, well, how dumb is this? Yes, conceptually it's dumb to skip frames, but that doesn't mean that it is not happening. So, because they haven't tested everything. All right, so let me go ahead and end on that note. I'm going to go ahead and get started, run another test. I'm going to use these same game saves because they're coming up just fine. And let's see what we get. All right, so I hope that helps. And I hope it helps that if somebody's getting that, I would recommend exiting out of their game, loading a completely different area, exiting out of the game, and then going back and loading the area that gave them that error and see if they still have that error. If they do, if they have that SS2 corruption data error, if they do, then at that point I would say the data might be corrupt, because for me it was there 1 minute and now it's gone the next. So, and knowing what SS2 looks at to determine data corruption might help isolate the issue. All right, I hope that helps. I'm going to go ahead and get started my day, and yeah, I'll post some streams, and then we'll see what kind of errors we get with all of that.